Hello and welcome to this edition of Ringside Digest. I'm your host Kirk Day, along with my co-host Nick Miller. And today we're going to go over a few injuries that have happened in the past few days with some big NHL names. And we're going to go over a few cryptic tweets that Kevin Weeks has been tweeting in the past, pretty much since the NHL trade deadline, involving a possible expansion. But before we get into that, if you want to see more content like this, make sure to subscribe because we're going to be making content all throughout the year involving trades, signings, playoffs, all of it. So make sure to subscribe if you want to see that. Without any further ado, we're just going to get into our first one here, which is Kirill Kaprizov is out for 3 to 4 weeks. This comes from last night's game against the Winnipeg Jets. In the end of the game, Kaprizov went down with a lower body injury late in the game, got fell on by Logan Stanley, and this came out today from Michael Russo. Kirill Kaprizov will miss 3 to 4 weeks with a lower body injury, and the Minnesota Wild announced. And now, I think everybody knows at this point that Kaprizov is by far the best player in Minnesota, and it's not even close. Really their only superstar, so having him go out for 3 to 4 weeks, close until the playoffs, it's not the best situation to be in for them. I mean, they are tied for the big opening spot in the Central, the top spot, but that's pretty much all because of him. And I'll just pull up another athletic quote here, which is from, I believe Michael Russo wrote this one, I'm not positive though. It says, what an extended absence means for Minnesota, and talking about Kirill Kaprizov. And it says, for a team starved for scoring, 26th in the league with 2.75 goals per game and 31st with 106 5-on-5 goals, the Minnesota Wild are riding an 11-game point streak. They will need to find a way to survive without their lone star Kaprizov, who has scored 39 of their 179 goals this season, which is 21.8% of the whole team's goals. That's an astronomical number. And this season in 65 games played, Kirill Kaprizov has 74 points. He was on pace for 50 plus goals, and it's a big loss. It's kind of hard to replace him too. They didn't do much at the NHL trade deadline to be able to get that depth forward. They had a limited cap space. They called up Sammy Walker, but that's no replacement for Kirill Kaprizov. What do you think, Nick?
I don't know. I think it's fair to say that Kirill Kaprizov is already the best player in Minnesota Wild history, and this is his third season now in the Wild uniform. I think this is just a huge loss for the Wild. I can't imagine a scenario in which this goes well for them over the next 3 to 4 weeks. I do think though, if they come together and play as a team, Dean Evason is a talented enough coach that he can probably squeeze them into the playoffs. Still, they are 10 points in right now, ahead of the Calgary Flames, and that the Calgary Flames are the first team outside the wild card looking in, and I think the Jets are 6 points below the Wild right now at 75, and I mean the Jets are just spiraling too. So I mean that might just ease itself off, but man, if they do manage to squeeze into the playoffs still despite missing their best player, I think Dean Evason should be up for the Jack Adams Award. I really do.
Yeah, I agree. And they also got some solid goaltending right now between Philip Gustafsson and Marc-Andre Fleury. I mean, Fleury last night had just about 50 saves in a big win. So those guys are definitely going to have a lot in their hands over the next few weeks going to the playoffs. They're going to need to someone's going to need to step up. I mean, luckily for them, Hartman's been pretty good recently, starting to get better than he was at the beginning of the season. But still, they don't got that guy who was just known for his absolute talent and goals. So I mean, this is a whole team issue. Everybody is going to need to step up to fill his shoes, and it's not even really a question about that.
Philip Gustafsson, he just came out of nowhere for them this season. He's been fantastic, and I mean that's what they're going to need going down the stretch if Kirill Kaprizov is not there. I mean, you could say he's the second best winger in the league, and you could argue that he's the best winger in the league. David Pasternak's having a phenomenal season, so it'd be a hard argument to win. But he is definitely, without a doubt, the second best winger in the NHL this season. And any team that's losing that type of player, especially without a great supporting cast, is going to cause a lot of problems internally for the team.
Yeah, and I really do hope that this issue will be resolved somehow. I mean, they called up Sammy Walker, who is leading the Iowa Wild in points. He's just under point per game. He's in his 6 games in the NHL this year. I mean, he's looked pretty good. He hasn't put up very many points, of course, but I mean, that's due to limited playing time. But he's going to have to take a big role in the NHL. And I wouldn't say he's going to take Kaprizov's spot in the top line, but he'll have to slot into the team, and he'll have to get into it quickly to be able to get what they've been doing to keep on that 11-game point streak. Because in the West right now, you don't really got any games you can afford to lose without tanking up or tanking down in the standings a few spots. So it's definitely an important role to fill for Sammy Walker. And then with our second story here, we have another injury, which is Ryan O'Reilly and his injury timeline. So Ryan O'Reilly went on the LTIR with a broken finger, and he had successful surgery the morning of March 7th, and his estimated timeline for return is the same as Kaprizov, 4 weeks, which is also not a good thing for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But I mean, the Maple Leafs did what Minnesota really couldn't do in the deadline, which was add some depth. Now, I mean, John Tavares, like, as we recording this video, is also out, so their lines aren't exactly what they would be with Tavares in. But they did get enough depth to where they could even fill that lineup with an injury or two, which is crucial for a team going to the playoffs and looking to make a deep run. Because as you know, in the playoffs, there are several people that can play with major injuries. One that comes to mind is Bergeron a couple years ago, playing with broken ribs throughout the entire playoffs. Like, that was ridiculous. So, I mean, the Toronto Maple Leafs are also in a bit of a sticky situation, but they can afford to have an injury. But, I mean, even with O'Reilly, he is a big locker room guy and a big on-ice guy. He's been there, done that. He's got the experience, so it is a tough loss for him. So then hopefully he would stick around the team if I'm the Toronto fan, hoping that he's there to give, like, the young guys and the people that are haven't been to, like, deep in the playoffs. Well, I mean, it's pretty much most of them. That experience and let them know that you still got to keep it going. Even if you're still doing well, you have to make sure that you're ready to go for the rest of the games in the season, the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. Your eyes got to be on the prize at 100% of the time. And I know that a lot of the Leafs players probably have trouble seeing what that prize is at the moment because they really haven't ever got a taste of it past the 7th game of the first round. But Ryan O'Reilly has paid the price before to be a champion. It takes a lot of bruising on your body to get up there. You really got to give your all. And I'm going to take a calm approach to this one. Nice, short, and sweet. It's fine. Leafs fans, it's fine. Like, he's going to be back for the playoffs. You're going to have hopefully you'll have John Tavares back for the playoffs because I'm pretty sure he got a concussion right now. That's what the word is going around. Some people are saying. But I think it's going to be fine. Ryan O'Reilly will play for the crest on his sweater like at 100 days out of 100. He's always going to play when he needs to play. I think that when he comes back, he'll be at 100%, and the Leafs will get 100% of Ryan O'Reilly, the Ryan O'Reilly that they were used to seeing in the first few games he played there.
Yeah, for sure. And even though he was on a cold streak in his last going out, he's still a big part of that team. And Ryan O'Reilly is one of those guys who he could have one of the worst injuries we have ever seen in the NHL, and he will still go all out to play. He's one of those guys that'll go through anything to be able to play. And so that's a big part for the Leafs. And I'm sure, especially now with the Leafs as well, he will want to do it even more. And so, like you said, Leafs fans, I think there's nothing to worry about. He will be back regardless if he's 100% or not. But for them, hopefully, he is 100% because you go out and get him at the deadline with 1 year left, you're going for it, and you got to hope that he'll be good to go then for sure.
You're gonna need it because you're playing a Tampa Bay team that's only. I don't really see how Tampa Bay got worse. They lost Andre Palat, but in the places where Andre Palat was good, now Brandon Hagel stepped up into that top line role. And I just don't see. Actually, I think they might have Stamkos, Point, and Kucherov playing on the line now. But Brandon Hagel stepped up into an Andre Palat role. It's crazy they can have those guys on the same line and still get the exact same amount of production that they were getting from the second line, third line, and so on. It's crazy how good Tampa is. But, I mean, Toronto is going to need absolutely everything. That just proves Toronto's going to need absolutely everything that they've got. And everybody to be 100% to beat them.
Yeah, and even if it's not Tampa, you still got the Devils, Hurricanes, Boston, Rangers. Like, the East is stacked. So, I mean, whoever you come up against is going to be a challenge in the first round. And then second round, the finals, Eastern Conference finals. Regardless, whoever you're going to play, you need to be you need to do your best because you're not going to make it out if you're not trying at all.
This is easily the toughest East we've seen in a long time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. With our third story here, it's a possible expansion franchise in Houston. Now, this is one of the locations that Kevin Weeks has been hinting at for the past few weeks, it seems. Like, this is just one example here. It's been since, after the trade deadline, he'll put a few, like, eye emojis and that other one, and just hinting at Houston, Atlanta. Like, the other day, he put a picture up on his Twitter of him in, I think it was Houston. So, does he know something that we don't? He certainly could, but it's just Houston, I can understand as a location for it. I would be okay with the Houston expansion team. I mean, they deserve it. Dallas Stars have good fans. The Texas Stars, their AHL franchise, they also have good fans. I mean, we've seen them and they've been pretty good for the past few years. So I mean, I can see a Houston team working. I can see it being well. They'd have a good fans and a solid fan base. But Atlanta is the third strike. I think it might be out. Like, they've had the Atlanta Flames, they have the Atlanta Thrashers, and I mean, we don't see them anymore. They don't have a team. They left. So why would it work in the third time? I know hockey's getting bigger in parts of the U.S. like that, like Arizona. Well, I mean, sort of, I guess, and like Vegas. But I don't know. Atlanta's had their opportunities. I mean, Vegas has never seen an opportunity to do it. I mean, it's working there, but that's a lot of tourist-based stuff as well. I mean, they got loyal fans, the ones that are fans. And I mean, Seattle, they were one of the spots that deserved to have a team. They got one. But then you have cities like, you have Quebec, I have a few listed here. Quebec, Salt Lake City, Hartford, if they don't play in a mall, and Milwaukee. Like, those areas have, I feel, a fan base that would be able to support an NHL team. They haven't had the big stage opportunity of the NHL. So it would be a waste to not give it a try there when you know that Atlanta has not worked for you in the past, and it probably will not work for you in the future. So I just don't know. And I mean, they've had an AHL team before. Houston has. And that, I mean, they're not there anymore, but as we know, AHL teams bounce around, just try to get closer to the actual NHL team, just in case of injuries and whatever, trying to get a player up. And they, like right here, they were the Minnesota Wild's AHL team, which, I mean, is a bit of a distance going from Texas to Minnesota. But still, they had their opportunity for a team. They got it. I mean, it seemed to work from what I've heard. I haven't heard any bad things about it. But Atlanta, that's all we've heard is bad things. I mean, the Thrashers, they had nobody in the stands for the last few years, their tenure, I guess. So, I mean, I just don't understand why they're trying to give Atlanta another try. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I absolutely love the idea of a team in Houston. They seem to have pretty loyal fans. I mean, if you can get over the whole trash can incident, you definitely got some loyal fans in there. So I would love. And all jokes aside, I would love to see a team in Houston. Like, they do have really good fans that you see with the Rockets as well, right?
Yeah.
And obviously the AHL team has worked there, or it did work in the past. And obviously you can't go Texas to Minnesota. That wasn't gonna last very long. That wasn't gonna stay. Like, it was almost like the Ice Caps for Montreal or Winnipeg's farm team. That wasn't gonna work in St. John's to go across the country. You know what I mean? I think it would work there, but it absolutely boils my blood that Atlanta is even in the conversation for this. When there are so many other places, like you mentioned, that deserve a team more than Atlanta. They had two opportunities to make it work. Two. And both times those teams left to go to Canada because the fan base is better and they deserve a team more. Atlanta had, like I said, two opportunities. And if it takes another opportunity in Atlanta, failed, to get the team back, to get a team back in Quebec City, I'm all for it. Otherwise, don't put them there.
Yeah, I mean, it's very rare that a team will get a third chance in the NHL. I mean, we've seen Winnipeg, they left originally and then came back, like, from Atlanta. But
That's worked phenomenally.
it has. Winnipeg has probably been a bigger fan base than ever, even back in from their first tenure. But I mean, it hasn't worked for Atlanta in the past. Like, I don't see why a third time would. Their second time didn't, and Winnipeg's second time did. That's the difference. If its second time works, okay, you can stay. Give them another chance if they happen to leave again. It could be about due to financial, whatever. But just Atlanta hasn't worked. So I don't see why it would ever work again. I mean, it don't make any sense to me. So yeah, like Houston, and that's the problem too, is that you can't add just one because that would offset all the divisions again. So you would need to either add like 2 or 4. It's just, so it is a bit of a predicament. I mean, I've seen the tweets. It's not going to happen anytime soon, but they said if there is a possibility of the two locations, it would be Houston and Atlanta. I mean, I just don't understand it. Don't make any sense to me at all.
No, it's just a brutal predicament they have to be in right now. Like, if you're considering Atlanta, at what point do you consider that maybe the people that are running the NHL are not fit to be running the NHL? They're trying to
Yeah.
push the narrative. I know they're trying to grow hockey. I'm all for growing hockey, but this is a team like getting an NHL franchise is something that is not to be overlooked. That is a huge opportunity, a huge financial commitment, and they've been committed to twice, and they haven't been able to do it. I know Gary Bettman is doing everything in his power to hold on in Arizona right now, but that's another example of a place that isn't working. I know that they've got that whole arena issue right now, but why do you think they're in that arena issue in the first place? It's because it's not working.
Yeah.
They, People would rather see many more events be put on in Arizona, and I'm sure there'd be the exact same thing in Atlanta after a while because Atlanta, I know we've said it a million times in this video. It doesn't work. It boils my blood. I can't stand it.
Yeah, it's not the best predicament to be in. But that's all we got for this video, guys. So if you want to see more stuff like this, like I said at the beginning of the video, make sure to subscribe because we're going to have it all throughout the season, off season, the big events, free agency, the draft. Yeah, so make sure to like, subscribe, and thank you for watching.